Hi everybody, Cheryl coming to you from the Ladies Garden and Home. It's a gorgeous evening during Labor Day weekend, and I thought it would be a perfect time to show you around the garden, show you how things are coming in for the summer harvest, and how I'm starting to transition things to the fall crops. So I hope you join me. It sure is bright and sunny. Anyway, I thought we'd start up on the deck today. There are a couple of things that I wanted to show you up here, and then we'll go down into the garden, okay? If you're new to my channel, I garden in Zone 7B. I'm in Southwest Connecticut, and I have a small backyard with a deck, and these are my deck containers, and in them I have all of my herbs. And they look a little bit peaked right now because I have been harvesting them and drying them. I'll show you that setup. But here's the oregano, the parsley, basil. I've got some holy basil here. This is Italian flat leaf. Some lemon balm and thyme and rosemary. Some chives that they're pretty much done for the season. I could get some harvest out of them. Some more basil. And here is the overwintered sweet pea tomato plant that self-seeded in this pot that I brought in over the winter. It had basil in it. And so this is on its way out. It's kind of an old plant now. It actually started growing back in December. But what I did is I took some off of another cherry tomato plant. I took a little cutting here and I'm trying to root it in there. If you can see the difference between the leaves. And I just have to continue to water it every day until it starts really putting out some roots. But this time of year, especially with a cherry tomato or a small type of tomato like the sweet pea tomatoes, it's a good time to just start another round through a cutting because they're already pretty established. Here's a hibiscus, and it's pretty healthy. I have it in this pot. I used to have another really small type of patio tomato here called a Tiny Tim or a Tiny Tom. Anyway, went away for a couple of days, didn't get watered, kind of petered out. I got a couple of tomatoes off of it. Here's the strawberry cart, and I had some problems, I still do, with this type of fungus. And I've been spraying it all summer and removing the leaves that are damaged, and the growth is starting to look a little bit more healthy now. It's not really strawberry time, although these are everbearing, which means they bloom and they put on strawberries throughout the entire, season from the spring through the fall. But this time of year, they're very, very tiny strawberries. I eat them anyway. And here is the green stalk, and it looks completely overtaken by these tiny sweet pea tomato plants, which is fine. The plants don't look too fresh anymore, but I do have a lot of little baby tomatoes growing, and I love these sweet pea tomatoes. They're so tiny, tiny, tiny. But you grab a handful and you throw them in with whatever you're making for dinner, whether it's green beans or a soup. And this is the Sun Gold cherry tomato plant that's in this pot. A lot of the plants on the deck this summer are kind of struggling, and I think it's because the sun just beats so hard on the deck during the day. It's so much hotter up here than it is even down there in the bottom part of the garden, that the heat and the dryness, the lack of rain, just kind of stressed out the plants. Some of them are doing well, I still have some chard going to town. There's some basil in here that's picked over because I picked a lot of it last night. But this was another type of cherry tomato, a yellow one, and that's obviously not doing well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pulling these really old looking tomato plants out of the green stalk soon, and I'm going to be putting spinach in its place. And I've already taken out a couple, and I've sown some lettuce in some of the pockets. This is a very nosy yellow jacket. It's just too interested in my stuff. Whoop! Coming down the steps here, the mint is really starting to go to flower. I like leaving them to go to flower because the bees really love it. And I also like picking as much as I can for my evening cocktails. And it is a Saturday evening, and I'm having my mint and lemon and vodka cocktail. Cheers. I have tried and tried to keep up with the watering. This is the eggplant, and if you saw my last video, it was all about how I'm kind of losing the battle to the critters in the garden this year. And the groundhog had eaten all of the leaves off of all of these eggplants before I put the cages up. They seem to be working. They're keeping him away from getting at it. And now I finally have a couple of flowers. And of course, as we enter September, on Monday, we are towards the real race before the frost comes to see if we can get anything before the frost comes and just kills these plants off. Eggplant's very frost tender, so that's why I start them so much earlier. Inside in the winter, this year I started them in February, and we'll see. We'll see. And this is a cucumber plant that the groundhog just decimated. I have some flowers on it. I don't know. Oof, that stupid yellow jacket. And these tomatoes are not doing very well here. They were going to town for a while. When I was out of town for longer than I expected to be, I didn't get a chance to water them. So I think that the heat and the dryness really got to them. But I do have a good number of green tomatoes ripening up. Back there is the loofah plant, and I don't have any flowers on that plant yet, but it is still growing. This is the celery bed with some tomato plants, and these are my sauce tomatoes. And the celery I really cut back. It was getting very overcrowded. But what I did is I waited for them to go to flower, and I waited for the flower seeds to dry, and then I threw them in here. And then the seedlings will come up and they'll overwinter, and then I'll have more celery in the spring, and it gets a nice early start on it. I've been doing this now for a couple of years, and I've always had a nice harvest of celery since I've been doing it this way. I find it easier than trying to start the seeds inside. The thing is, I think that they really overcrowded these tomato plants, and so next year I'm going to have to be much more careful about giving these more space and air. Some of them are okay. They just look dry right now. They need some watering. And then some of them are starting to get that kind of late season blight. I did start new plants with cuttings like I did upstairs on the deck, and I have to keep those nice and watered. In the middle here are some carrots that I had started way back in March, but they didn't grow very well, but now they're starting to. So this is probably the weather that they appreciate a little bit better. Cooler nights. Mary's rose garden is looking pretty good. I moved and transplanted the fig. This is just a fig named Sue, the plant that my good friend Suzanne gave me a couple of years ago. And it was suffering from some kind of really bad fungus issue. I've been treating it with baking soda and water spray, and I cut back those leaves, and since I transplanted it into this extremely huge pot, it's really starting to leaf out and grow again. So I'm very happy. It seems to be very pleased in this corner. It doesn't get such direct sunlight all day long like it did up on the deck. So I think we found a good place for a fig named Sue. I'm just going to have to cover it with some burlap over the winter because our winters get too cold for this particular variety to live through without some protection. That's St. Francis's bulb garden. I started these by a winter sowing method in plastic bags, and I planted them out, probably in April, and I don't remember what they are. I think they may be hollyhocks. I'm not sure, but they didn't bloom. Got some lily of the valley in there. The irises I'm going to cut back when it starts to get cooler at night. I like to leave the green on them if the green looks pretty healthy, which it does. Some sweet alyssum. And then in here, got a little overcrowded. I got some coleus. There's some coreopsis in there. Another coleus. Some impatiens. Well, these hydrangea finally started blooming. This is lilac in here. The lavender is done for the season. I did not harvest it like I usually do. I have a good video on how to harvest and preserve lavender, which I'll put in the link below. But this year I decided to just not harvest it. I still have a lot of lavender in jars inside. And just let it flower, and the bees loved it. Oh, look at this spider. Oof, oof. Can you see it? Can you see it? Huh? It's a little early for spiders, but they've been out and about. Anyway, so I've been hacking this back. It's time to cut it back. It's important when you cut back your lavender that you don't cut it back to the dead wood. You need to let some green be there still because it grows from there. So anyway, I've been doing it slowly because this is kind of laborious and I get tired. So I decided I'm just going to do a little at a time. Underneath here is my medicinal herb garden. That's lamb's ear. And St. John's wort. Some feverfew is in here, some chamomile. And the plants haven't died even with all of this shade. They're actually kind of fighting for the light. The zucchini I had in here did not make it. The groundhog got to it and decimated it too much, took too many leaves off, ate the leaves, and it didn't really have any kind of a chance of a comeback, unfortunately. The potatoes, though, I planted these in March. Some of them I've harvested, but the rest of them I decided to just leave in there. And what happened was they started regrowing, which is interesting. And I decided that instead of trying to store them properly inside, because I really don't have a place to store them properly, that I would take them as I need them, which is what I've been doing. This was an interesting experiment. This is my shade garden. It gets very little light, just a little bit of dappled light. And what I did was I got from Botanical Interests a whole bag of mixed seeds of flowers for shade gardens, and I just scattered them in here. And what's done the best is balsam, which I think is really pretty, and it goes very well with the impatiens along the fence here. Balsam is apparently a type of impatient. This corn sees some cob starting with some tassels. Mr. Groundhog ate the tops off of the dahlias, and then I moved these two up on tables, and as you can see, they're starting to regrow. Don't know if that means I'm going to get dahlia flowers by the fall, but I hope so. The real stars of the garden this year are these pepper plants. They love this spot. They love the weather. These three are peperoncini plants. They are actually the great-grandchildren of Mancini, the peperoncini. If you follow me, you remember, way back, I think in 2021, I did a single seed challenge, and I fell in love with my single seed, which was one peperoncini plant, and his name was Mancini. And I saved his seeds. And since then, I've been saving seeds from these peperoncinis ever since. Here's some serrano peppers that I grew for my son. He likes hot peppers. And here are some banana peppers. Boy, did I have a nice harvest I took the other day. Froze a lot of it. I'm going to make some nice sausage and peppers from them. They're also a wonderful garden snack. I just love snacking on them. And then here's the wall of beans. It's a little thin this year compared to last year. I don't think I sowed as heavily. And also up on the deck, Mr. Groundhog has come up and eaten a whole bunch of the leaves. So it looks thinner, but I'm starting to get some string beans. I'll be harvesting them and eating them soon. Here's the little tiny pond feature. It is not landscaped at all, other than the fact that I killed off this really tough grass underneath it with cardboard, and then I just put mulch on top. And I think that next year's big project is going to be landscaping around this, make it look pretty. So if you saw my last video about my troubles with the groundhog, I put these cages up, and they were very flimsy and they kept knocking over. So I put some of these canes to kind of keep them straight up and keep them from being toppled over by the groundhog, which, if he really wants to get to them, he can knock it over anyway. However, one thing that I've discovered that seems to really be helping, and why these sweet potatoes finally have some nice growth on them, is, so I planted way too many hot peppers. These are jalapenos, and these are called, the groundhog for some reason has decided it likes pepper leaves, but these are called little bells, and I thought that they would be mild. They are not. They are extremely hot. So what I've been doing is I've been taking these, because I'm not going to eat them, and I have the serranos from my son, and I've been taking a scissor and just chopping it up and throwing it over the leaves, you see? And I think what that's doing is giving off a scent that the groundhogs really don't like. Anyway, I'm not going to read too much more into this, other than the sweet potatoes seem to be a little bit more healthier since I've been doing that. And I have one butternut squash that doesn't seem to be completely and totally destroyed. Behind the corn are this grouping of cucumbers that I have kind of fenced in with this upside down tomato cage for them to climb on. And they're doing pretty well. I have some flowers. I don't mind starting cucumbers kind of late in the season, because I like to use them in salads and things with tomatoes. And the tomatoes inevitably are never ready in time, and the cucumbers are done by the time they are. So I just start them later in the year now. I think I put these in July. I have not kept up with harvesting the calendula this year. I still have a lot left over from last year that I use medicinally. And as you can see, I've also not kept up with deadheading. So when I do deadhead, I come in and right now I'm just trying to get rid of the seeds because these are so prolific and they take over everything, and I have to really keep cutting them back. So I don't necessarily want any more seeds started. Here we have some pumpkins that are starting to make a comeback after Mr. Groundhog, Fatty McFatbottom, ate them. And the sweet potatoes too. Tomatoes on this side of the garden against this wall, they get the afternoon sun. They look thin. They're kind of nibbled at the base, but they're doing pretty well, I have to say. They're still growing, they're still flowering, and they're putting on fruit. I'm just waiting for them to ripen up. In here I had the onions, and I did a nice onion harvest this year. It was the first time I successfully grew onions. I grew 4 different types: Walla Walla, Yellow Spanish, Red Spanish, and I don't remember the other one, but it doesn't matter because those didn't come out very well anyway. But my Walla Walla, my Spanish Yellow, and the red onions did very well. They're dried now, and I cured them by just laying them out. I pulled them, laid them out flat for a couple of days with no rain, and let them kind of cure on the hot ground that way, and then just brought them inside and let them completely dry. These over here are German stripers, so those are going to be yellow and orange. And then over here I have Jersey Breeze. These did very well for me last year too, and I've got 3 plants per grow bag, and it doesn't seem to be bothering them. They're pretty healthy, so I really packed that in, and I'm happy with the results here. I forgot to mention underneath the peppers here in the same bed that I also have the green beans growing are leeks, and they are doing very well. So it'll be time soon for me to harvest some of them. I mean, this one looks ready to be harvested. When they get thick enough like that, you know, it's good to use them, but if they're like this, I'll just leave them in and let them grow. Butterfly bush over here by Aunt Lucille, the teacher, reading to her student. It's not doing very well, and I think it probably has outgrown its pot. Last year it was much fuller, many more branches. So I think I'm going to have to transplant it this fall. Coming inside now, this is it's like a mini greenhouse that I use more as a seed starting and herb drying area in my kitchen. I have some herbs drying here. I have a great video on my 3 favorite ways to dry herbs. I'll link that as well. It became very popular. And up here are my brassica seedlings, and even with a little bit of neglect, they look kind of healthy, a little overcrowded. I'm going to have to thin these out. I already thinned these out. I have broccoli, cauliflower, broccoli rabe, and some cabbage in here. And I was going to pot them up, but I don't think it's necessary before I'm going to have to put them out anyway. So I'm just going to let them grow up in these cells a little while longer, and then we'll look to transplanting them in some of those grow bags that I showed you that were not successful and are already empty. And then I'll be harvesting the sweet potatoes, and that'll free me up a lot of the bags as well. So that's what these are for. Wow, this time of year the light's really changing. It's starting to get darker earlier, obviously, but Also, I noticed that dusk doesn't last as long. And of course, as we get further into the fall, dusk goes like that. I just want to explain that one of the reasons why I don't start my brassicas directly into the soil this time of year is because of the white butterflies. They are also called cabbage moths or cabbage butterflies. Anyway, they will just absolutely decimate your brassicas. They just love them. They lay their eggs on them. The eggs turn into cabbage worms or whatever you call them, and they'll just eat up the plant. So I keep them as protected as long as I can, and then I'll be covering them when I put them outside to keep those bugs off of them. If you've been following me, you might have noticed that I've taken things a little bit easier this year, the summer and into the fall. That's by design. I just have decided I want to do what has started working for me, and I don't want to overextenuate myself to the point where I am so exhausted I'm not enjoying my gardening anymore. So I think I've kind of started getting a balance, which is good. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and I hope you share and subscribe so you can see whatever we've got coming up next. And just a reminder, at the end of this video will be a clip of our little lady, my dog that passed on this past winter, but I enjoy showing you clips of her so she can bring joy into your life just as she used to when it was the Ladies Garden and Home with her. Anyway, from the Ladies Garden and Home, enjoy your gardening journey. Bye!